Okay, y'all. Stop whatever you're doing. Turn the volume up. Because what I'm about to walk you through is the kind of story that don't happen twice in a lifetime, and by the time we finish this one, you're gonna understand why the entire music industry is quietly panicking behind closed doors. Diddy just broke all the way down inside that federal cell. I'm talking full-on wailing, screaming, on the floor kind of breakdown. And it wasn't because of the sentence, wasn't because of the food, wasn't because of the guards. It was because Clive Davis is dead. 94 years old. Gone. And the moment that news slipped through them prison walls, insiders say Diddy came apart like a man who just watched his own oxygen tank get unplugged. So today, we're pulling every single receipt, every buried clip, every whisper the streets been passing back and forth, and we're laying it out on this table piece by piece. Because if half of what people are saying is true, Clive Davis wasn't just his mentor. Clive was his entire operating system. And now that the system is offline, everything Diddy built, everything he protected, everything he allegedly hid, is standing exposed under a spotlight nobody can turn off. Now, let me set the room for you. Clive Davis is not just any executive. He is the executive. This is the man who signed Barry Manilow. This is the man who signed Pink Floyd to Columbia. This is the man who took a young girl named Whitney Houston and turned her into the biggest voice of a generation. This is the man Bruce Springsteen owes half his early career to. When we talk about kingmakers in music, Clive sits on a throne so tall that most people in the industry don't even look up high enough to see him. And for decades, he and Sean Combs were tangled together in a way that goes way past a normal mentor-protege relationship. That's what the streets is whispering right now. That's what them insider blogs is hinting at. And that's the part we're gonna crack wide open today. Because look, when a man like Diddy loses his composure in federal custody, that ain't a small event. Diddy is a performer. Diddy has been performing his whole life. Even in that courtroom, even during that sentencing, he was performing. Apologizing, crying on cue, calling his own actions disgusting, shameful, sick. And his kids stood there begging the judge for mercy, saying their father is a changed man. 50 months. For years and 2 months. $500,000 fine. 5 years supervised release. And through all of that, Diddy kept his mask on. But the second word came through that Clive was gone, the mask cracked. That's what tells you everything. That's the tell. That's the moment the truth peeked through the curtain, and the whole industry saw it happen at the same time. Let me rewind the tape for you, because to understand why this hits so hard, you got to understand the day these two first sat in a room together. Word is, young Diddy walked into that meeting broke in the pocket, but rich in vision. Hungry. Ambitious. Full of ideas, but zero real power. And Clive sat across from him like a chess grandmaster looking at a promising pawn. That meeting, the streets say, wasn't really about music. It was about doors. It was about access. It was about a very specific kind of trade that the industry has been running for 50 years, and only a handful of men know the actual rules. Allegedly, the executive saw something in the young hustler that day. Allegedly, he handed him the keys. But allegedly, them keys came with a receipt attached, and Diddy has been paying that receipt ever since. That's the theory. That's the rumor. That's what the whispers are pushing. And now that Clive is gone, people are asking whether the ledger just got left wide open for the world to read. Because y'all remember that interview. On national television, the executive openly talked about coming into his bisexuality after his second marriage failed. Said he opened himself up in the mid-80s to relationships with men. Said he'd kept it private because it was private. Nothing wrong with that on the surface. A grown man has the right to his own personal life. But when you overlay that admission with the industry rumors, with the whisper network, with the way young talent kept ending up inside them pre-Grammy parties year after year after year, and then you overlay Sean Combs' alleged blueprint, the picture gets uncomfortable real quick. That's not me saying it. That's what's trending across every gossip blog, every timeline, every corner of Black Twitter this week. And the fact that Diddy is breaking down the way he broke down is the loudest confirmation that the connection was deeper than the public ever understood. Fast forward to right now. Diddy is doing 50 months at FCI Fort Dix in New Jersey. Before Fort Dix, he was sitting at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn ain't a country club, y'all. That place is notorious. Overcrowded. Understaffed. Chaotic. Inmates complain about that facility every single week. And he allegedly caught the worst of it. Word is a fellow inmate woke him up with a knife to his throat. That's not a rumor spread by haters. That's the reporting. That's what got him transferred. So by the time Diddy landed at Fort Dix, he was already rattled, already isolated, already stripped of the swagger that used to walk into rooms before he did. And then, in the middle of all that fragility, the news drops. Clive, 94, gone. And Diddy fell apart. Because he allegedly believed his old mentor was still pulling strings from the outside. Allegedly believed the executive was working with his mother and his legal team to shorten the sentence, engineer an early release, quietly move the pieces the way he had moved pieces for 50 straight years. And now that lifeline just got cut. Now here's where it gets dark. Because the streets is not letting this one slide. People are pulling up old footage, old quotes, old photographs, and stacking them into a case that reads like a documentary nobody greenlit yet. Some folks are saying Diddy leaned on his mentor so hard because Diddy allegedly had leverage on him. That's the word going around. That he allegedly threatened to expose the executive's private life if his benefactor didn't ride hard for him. Blackmail. That's the ugly word people are using. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not stating that as fact. I'm reporting what the timelines are pushing. But when you look at how aggressively the executive allegedly moved behind the scenes for his protege even after the federal charges dropped, even after the trial, even after the sentencing, you can understand why folks online are landing on that theory. Because the average music executive would have walked away the second them freak-off allegations went public. He didn't walk away. He doubled down. And now the streets want to know why. Let me pump the brakes and hit you with something even wilder. Because it ain't just the executive that folks is examining under the microscope. Diddy's whole Rolodex is getting dragged back into the spotlight. Every celebrity who ever partied in them houses, every artist who ever sat courtside with Diddy, every model who ever walked into one of them white parties, they all standing in the shadow of this thing. And most of them have gone stone quiet. Meek Mill's name keeps getting dragged into it. There's that audio clip that supposedly leaked, the one folks say came from inside one of them environments. Meek shut that down immediately. Called it artificial intelligence. Called it fake. Called it a psyop. Went on a full rant about being a voice from the trenches that powerful people want to silence. Called himself No Diddy Gang and doubled down every chance he got. But the internet don't forget, and every time his name comes up in one of these conversations, that clip resurfaces all over again. That's a loop Meek can't seem to close, no matter how loud he screams. Then you got Naomi Campbell. Now, Naomi is a whole different level of complicated. Because her name has been tied to Diddy for years and tied to Jeffrey Epstein for even longer. Photographs from old events. Attendance records at gatherings nobody wants their name attached to no more. She has never been charged with anything. And she denies knowing about anything illegal Epstein was doing. She sat down in a widely circulated interview and said she was introduced to Epstein by her ex-boyfriend Flavio on her 31st birthday, said Epstein was always front and center at Victoria's Secret shows, said what he did was indefensible, said it sickened her stomach. Straight denial. But critics online are ripping her body language apart frame by frame. They saying she dodges. They saying she pivots. They saying the way she answers don't match the way an innocent person answers. And now people are alleging she wasn't just attending. Folks are alleging she was recruiting. Folks are alleging she was operating in a role similar to Ghislaine Maxwell, promising modeling opportunities and pulling young women into rooms with powerful men. Now again, she denies all of that. She has not been charged with any of that. But the allegations are out there, and they keep growing louder, and every time Diddy sneezes, her name gets pulled back into the conversation whether she wants it there or not. And it gets thicker. Because Naomi has publicly tried to distance herself from Diddy too. But the internet found the receipts. Rumors of them dating in the early 2000s. Footage of the pair flying to London with young Miami just to surprise Naomi when she was earning her honorary doctorate. That's not a casual friend. That's a whole flight across the ocean for a public gesture. So when she acts like Diddy is just an acquaintance now, the timeline pushes back. Hard. And the more she tries to step back, the more people zoom in. That's the tax you pay when your name got tangled up with the wrong network for too long. And then, of course, there's Jay-Z. The elephant in every single one of these conversations. For years, Jay and Diddy moved like twin moguls. Same parties. Same power tables. Same private rooms. Jaguar Wright famously called them peanut butter and jelly, said they were inseparable until the Rico heat came knocking. She said if you got just peanut butter, it's just peanut butter, and if you got just jelly, it's just jelly, but when you put them together, the taste is undeniable. And she looked the camera dead in the eye and said them two is peanut butter and jelly. That clip went viral. That clip lives forever. And the second the federal case dropped, Jay-Z went radio silent. Distanced himself. Made himself scarce. Because he already dodged one major civil bullet from a lawsuit that got quietly reworked, and he knows the second his old running mate decides to talk, the whole network gets exposed. So Jay is out here watching this Clive situation with the same nervous eyes as everybody else. Because the executive was one of the few people who could keep the storm contained. Clive was the calm. He was the pressure valve. And that valve just got ripped off. Now, back to Clive. Because we need to sit with this part. Allegedly, from the moment those federal charges hit his protege, the executive was on the phone. Allegedly working the room. Allegedly coordinating with Diddy's mother. Allegedly coordinating with the legal team. Allegedly whispering to the right ears in the right places, trying to get Diddy an early exit. Some critics are convinced he didn't have a choice. Some are saying the inmate was holding a folder full of receipts on him and simply pressing the right button whenever he needed a favor. Blackmail. That word again. And listen, I'm not calling that fact. I'm telling you what's being circulated. I'm telling you what the streets is running with. Because when a 94-year-old billionaire music executive dies of natural causes and a federal inmate loses his mind on the floor of a cell over the news, the public is gonna reach for the darkest explanation possible. That's just how the game works. And now everything Diddy allegedly built on top of that Clive Davis blueprint is coming into a sharper focus. Because think about how he operated. Think about how Bad Boy operated. Every artist he signed. Every party he threw. Every access point he controlled. Every young talent he pulled close to him. The way he allegedly moved through the industry was almost a copy-paste of the way his mentor allegedly moved through the industry decades earlier. Same playbook. Same tempo. Same rules. He learned from the master, and he became a master himself. That's what folks are saying. That's why Diddy's breakdown hit so different. Because when he lost his benefactor, he didn't just lose a mentor. Diddy lost the architect. The one who taught him how to build empires out of loyalty, silence, and access. And the youngest names that got pulled into that orbit? That's where this story goes from dark to devastating. Because y'all remember Justin Bieber. Y'all remember those clips from years back. Justin was 13 years old. Fresh out of Canada. Sudden global fame. And where did he end up? At Clive Davis parties. In rooms with Diddy. Diddy famously bragged in an old interview about spending 48 hours alone with young Bieber. Referenced the movie 48 Hours. Said him and his boy were about to have the times of their lives. Said they couldn't publicly disclose where they were hanging out or what they were doing. Said it was a 15-year-old's dream. Said he had been given custody of him. And then he walked it back and said he didn't actually have legal guardianship. But for the next 48 hours, the kid was his. And when they asked him what they were about to do, he said, and I quote, "We going full buck, full crazy." That clip is now aged like sour milk. People rewatch it and their stomach turns. And when you look at Justin's public breakdowns over the years, the anxiety, the trust issues, the tearful interviews about not wanting anyone else to go through what he went through, folks online are saying that ain't regular fame damage. Folks are saying that's the kind of damage that starts in a specific kind of room with a specific kind of adult in it. And that same room, allegedly, is where Clive was standing at the door. That's the accusation the internet is running with right now. Not proof. Not conviction. Accusation. But the accusation is loud, and it is not going away just because Clive is no longer breathing. Now let me hit you with what people are actually saying online, because the reactions are unreal. One user posted, quote, "His daddy is gone. Take that." Another one dropped, quote, "Awesome. This might be the only real hurt this man has ever experienced. Total deprivation on all levels. No more covering for him." Another one wrote, and I'm reading this straight, "He's losing it because from all the feelings he was holding back, from being incarcerated, from being busted and on, from being exposed, from family betrayal, and now his sugar daddy is gone. He's alone in a cell with more charges on the way. Diddy is done." Another comment simply said, "What's done in the dark will come to light." Another one, crying more for that mentor than he ever cried for the mother of his own children. Another one, he learned everything he knows from Clive, everything. And that last one keeps getting reposted and reposted because it lands the hardest. Because the streets ain't grieving Clive. The streets is decoding him. And this is where I want you to sit with me for a second, because this ain't really a story about one death, and it ain't really a story about one prison cell. This is a story about a machine. A very old, very quiet, very rich machine that has been running underneath the music industry for 50 years. A machine that identifies young talent, wraps that talent in access, protection, money, and fame, and in exchange extracts something from that talent that nobody wants to name out loud. A machine that Clive Davis allegedly helped design and Diddy allegedly perfected. And when a machine like that loses a key operator, the wires start sparking. The panels start rattling. The people who benefited from that machine start looking at each other, wondering who's the next domino to fall. That's why Jay went quiet. That's why Meek gets defensive. That's why Naomi is deleting old posts and denying old connections. That's why every celebrity who once orbited Diddy is now sitting in a very uncomfortable silence, hoping the machine holds together just a little longer. And Diddy? Diddy is stuck in a cell, weeping over a man who allegedly gave him everything and allegedly took everything in return. Reports say the guards are letting him shower almost every day now, which is unusual because in the SHU you normally only get 3 showers a week. Sources say some of the staff is even sneaking food to him. That commissary list everyone keeps posting online, the one that shows him buying all types of items? That's a fantasy. That's a general population list. In the SHU, the commissary is limited. He can't touch half that list. But somehow, someway, Diddy is getting extra treatment behind the walls. Extra showers. Extra food. Extra whatever. And the other inmates are noticing. And the other inmates are not happy. And that means his next chapter inside that prison might get uglier faster than anybody expects. Which is exactly why losing his old mentor right now, right at this moment, might be the crack that snaps the whole thing in half. Now, I want to slow down and ask the question the internet is really asking. What if Clive Davis was more than a mentor? What actually went down in them private moments that shaped Sean Combs into the man the government eventually locked up? What did the executive teach him that couldn't be taught in a boardroom? What was the actual education, the actual curriculum, the actual price of admission? Because if Diddy is breaking down like this, if he is wailing like a man who lost his last lifeline, then the connection was not what they told the public it was. The connection was something else. Something older. Something protected. Something the industry has been guarding for half a century. And now that one of the guards is dead, the other guard is behind bars, and the whistleblowers are getting louder. The picture we're all about to see might be the picture nobody wanted us to see. And here's the piece nobody's talking about loud enough. The federal case is not over. Not really. There are civil suits stacking up in the wings. There are witnesses who never got called. There are pieces of evidence that never made it into the trial that could resurface in the next round. And with his mentor gone, one of the biggest reasons for Diddy to stay quiet just evaporated. Because he was allegedly protecting Clive. He was allegedly staying loyal. He was allegedly holding the line for a man he thought would ultimately save him. But you can't protect a dead man. You can't stay loyal to a dead man. You can't wait for a dead man to pull strings that no longer exist. Which means Diddy might be one bad week away from deciding it's time to talk. And if Diddy talks, the industry doesn't just shake. The industry cracks open like an egg on concrete. Every executive, every mogul, every artist who was ever in one of them rooms, every deal that was ever cut behind closed doors, all of it exposed, all of it public, all of it permanent. That is why every major player is watching Fort Dix right now like it's the Super Bowl. That is why Jay-Z's team is quietly on standby. That is why Naomi is measuring every word. That is why Meek is preemptively denying every rumor before it even gets written. Because they all understand that Clive Davis dying isn't the end of the story. That death is the pistol shot at the start of the race. And whoever gets to the finish line last is the one who gets buried under the truth. And listen, I want to be crystal clear before we wrap this up. I am not stating anything as fact. I am reporting what the streets are saying, what the timeline is pushing, what the internet is speculating, what the alleged whispers behind the walls are alleging. Naomi denies. Meek denies. Jay says nothing. Clive is no longer here to speak. And Diddy is behind bars, allegedly weeping into a pillow that used to belong to a man who allegedly held every secret he ever had to hide. That's the state of play. That's where we are. That's the moment we're standing in. But here's what I want you to sit with. Because when a man like Sean Combs loses composure over a man like Clive Davis, it's not because the mentor died. Mentors die every day in this industry. This was something else. This was the loss of a lifeline. This was the loss of a protector. This was the loss of the one man who allegedly knew every skeleton in every closet the mogul ever locked. And now that man is gone, those closets don't have a lock on them no more. Those skeletons ain't just gonna sit there quiet. And he knows it. That's why he's wailing. That's why he's on the floor. That's why the staff is sneaking him extra showers and extra snacks, because they can see with their own eyes that this is a man watching his entire world dissolve in real time. And the streets? The streets is ready. The streets been ready. The streets been saying this for years. That the machine consumes its own. That the mentors eat the proteges. That the proteges eat the newcomers. That the newcomers eat their own careers. And that once the top of the chain falls, everything under it falls with it. Clive was the top. Diddy was next. And whoever was standing right behind him is the person who should be losing sleep tonight. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. What if Diddy is right? What if Clive really was more than just a mentor? What actually happened in them rooms nobody was allowed to walk into? What was the price the young hustler paid to be the mogul the world thought he was? And why does it always feel like the powerful ones leave the ones they built exposed the moment the game gets too hot to hold? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think is really going on. Tell me whether you think Clive was the mentor or the mastermind. Tell me whether you think Diddy is broken because of grief or broken because of guilt. Tell me whether you think Jay-Z, Naomi, Meek, and everybody else in that orbit is about to catch the same wave, or whether they got a life raft nobody else knows about. Because I want to read every single one of them takes. Hit that like button so this reaches the people who need to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, because trust me, this story is only just beginning. And then click that next video popping up on your screen right now, because we are stacking evidence day by day and connecting dots the machine never wanted connected. This is the loudest silence the music industry has had in 50 years, and we are gonna document every crack in it. See you in the next one.